More money, more problems. Well, 3.5 years ago, Supreme Court radically changed the way that we finance our elections in this country. In a ruling better known as Citizens United, the court decided that companies, unions, and groups cannot be restricted in their political spending. So in essence, it let anybody funnel as much cash as they wanted to into political races. That's as long as that money didn't go directly to the candidates. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Now, the court is taking on a new case that would take Citizens United even further. Think of it as Citizens United on steroids. Now, to learn more about it, Andrew recently spoke with Demos counsel Liz Kennedy.
Liz, I'm looking at a blog that you've written called Stop the Next Citizens United. First of all, what's the next Citizens United?
Well, McCutcheon v. FEC is going to be coming up in the Supreme Court. Oral arguments are on October 8th, and they are challenging the contribution limits, the total ceiling that limit the amount that any one individual can give directly to candidates, parties, or committees. And those rules are important in order to protect our government and elected officials against corruption and the appearance of corruption. Unfortunately, currently, Alabama businessman Sean McCutcheon and the Republican National Committee are challenging those laws, but we believe that the Supreme Court will uphold these laws in accordance with their precedent, where they've upheld the same contribution limits previously.
Now, Liz, the Supreme Court's also upheld more than a couple of times that money equals speech. So why should there be a limit on the amount of speech that any one deep-pocketed person can use?
Because a democratic government has a right to protect itself from capture by private economic forces. What we are currently seeing is the domination of our politics and our policy and the funding of our campaigns to such a degree by really the 1% of the 1% that unfortunately it is giving them improper influence on our government.
Given where the court is now and the way it's moved, I'm wondering how much of a difference this ruling would really make. Couldn't a multi-billionaire simply sign come up with an independent expenditure group and give money, the soft money that you were referencing earlier, even if the court upholds the law in the case that you want it to?
So as you say, and as I think many of your viewers know, with Citizens United, they did actually decide to strike all limits on the ability of people currently to spend outside of the direct candidates and parties and committees. But it's still very important. So much of the spending in our federal elections is done directly by the candidates and their committees and the parties supporting them. And we really need to protect the ability of just average Americans to have their voices heard by elected representatives. So it's not that any one person is told that they can't give to as many campaigns as they would like. They just have to do so under a certain ceiling.
All right. Magically, Andrew, you're not wearing glasses now, unlike that Andrew.
I've seen the light.
You know, I know this sounds wonky and, we'll give campaign finance. But it really is the driver between a lot of the craziness that we were just talking about for the first couple blocks.
Oh, absolutely. We talked about some of the deep-pocketed folks who were driving some of this stuff on the debt limit and on the government shutdown. At least there's a transparent, paper-thin wall between those people and the issues and the candidates that they support right now. That's what we got from Citizens United. This case that the court is hearing tomorrow would tear that down and let anybody give as much money as they possibly want to any individual candidate. And I understand the argument in favor of it because
at least we get rid of the pretense, get up on the table.
Right, and because if we were going to say that money is speech, well then why are we limiting speech? But there really is a danger here in that you could really be the congressman from Name Your Company Here, Inc., or you could be the congressman from Rich Guy, Inc., and that's really contrary to the spirit of the government that we've had all of these years.
I thought, Dominic, take example that, remember that coal mine disaster in West Virginia?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. I always thought that's the biggest employer there and everything else. The way the rules are now, and if they eliminated that, as he said, paper-thin wall, they could say, okay, you want to get elected? I'm going to spend $5 million, $6 million. You'll outspend the other guy 5 to 1. But here's the drill. Here's the piece of paper. You're going to sign your name, and you're going to say, no matter what, you're going to support this industry lock, stock, and barrel. And it's even more if they're not a congressman, if they're a governor, if they're whatever.
Guess what?
many will contend that's the way it is now in many districts, Richard.
You're right.
I mean, in terms of the Koch brothers and so on. You're going to go as far right as I demand, and then you're going to make a couple more right turns. And I don't care who we hurt in the process. But this
It would destroy matching funds, wouldn't it?
I don't know the matching fund question, but I do know this is disgusting when you think about it. This case that's before the court. Think about this for a second. So there's a cap amount, right? I think it's $2,600 or whatever the amount is. Yep. So this man is arguing, oh no, you're violating my speech by limiting me to $2,600. I want to be able to give more to as much as I want around the board. And as a country, we're really arguing this before the Supreme Court. And this is freedom of speech. This, my friend, is exactly what's wrong with the American political system. And it's never going to get fixed. It's never. I don't care what you say, what you do. You can argue from this spot every night. Until you get the money out of politics, it's going to remain exactly the way it is.
Last quick point to make on this, because we don't think about this a lot when we think about elections. There are a slew of judges in this country who are elected. Yeah. State judges, local judges, sometimes the highest.
Now, literally,
in Texas, where I used to live, it was the highest. The Supreme Court of Texas was elected. You can buy a judge, and if you're Northeast Pennsylvania, fracking. You can make fracking problems go away by buying a judge. Now,
it's legal now.
This way would be legal.
Used to be a joke, I could buy a judge, but now you know your price, and you can actually advertise how much you bought him for. All right, when we come back, we're going to leave the world of politics and get to an issue that a growing number of families are dealing with, and it's Huntington's disease. It's a horrible illness that leaves its victims without the ability to speak, eat, or walk. Now, when we return, we're going to hear how this deadly disease impacts not just the person, but the entire family. We'll also show you not just how you should be, following the issue, but how you can help as well. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.